is a solo on minor blues. In this example, C minor, which is one of the common keys to play this in. My most recent melody video was on Stolen Moments by Oliver Nelson. Once the melody goes through, then solos are on a C minor blues. We can play this on lots of tunes. Mr. PC, Equinox, Burke's Works, and in a variety of keys. C minor is very common. Might also play it in G minor, B flat minor. It's typically going to be 12 bars like many standard blues progressions, but the harmony does tend to move a little bit differently in some respects. Those important moments like the 1 chord, the 4 chord, back to the 1 chord, and then the 5 chord, going back to the 1 chord, are all common to blues in general, but here we have the minor 1 chord and the 4 chord. We typically have a predominant before that 5 chord, G7. Oftentimes A flat 7 in this key, it's the flat 6 chord. Sometimes major 7. And we can have various progressions kind of embedded in there. So we could have an E flat 7 to an A flat major 7, maybe D minor 7 to G7, or even D7 to G7. Or E flat minor 7 to A flat 7, maybe D7 to G7. So you want to become familiar with a variety of progressions, especially in that part of the tune where we get into the ending of the form, or just before the ending of the form. So we have a very common form, very fun to improvise over, has a certain mood to it, maybe a little darker sounding than standard blues. I'm guessing a lot of folks here have played on minor blues before, so I won't go too much into the basics, but if you've played minor pentatonic, that works very well. Minor blues. And if you have, you could have this experience where, okay, that's pretty fun and it works, but maybe we could look for something to add a little bit of variety, and that's what we'll talk about here today. So we're in the key of 3 flats, natural minor. Sounds like this. But you might notice in the melody of this tune, Stolen Moments, or many of these minor blues tunes, that rather than an A flat, we may work with an A natural. I'd recommend not really thinking of this as a mode, but just a way of sounding on, let's say, the minor 1 chord. Let me know if you have any opinions about this or what's worked for you. So this gives us the minor 6 kind of chord where the piano player or the guitar player or any chordal instrument musician might play that natural 6. So this will correspond well with that. We can also take that minor pentatonic sound and drop one of those tones to give ourselves the 6th as a color option in our line. So there we're playing A natural rather than B flat. That's called the minor 6 pentatonic. So experiment with that, and you can create a little bit of motion in your lines by even alternating. So I'm alternating between C minor pentatonic and the C minor 6 pentatonic. On the 4 chord, F minor, we can do very much the same thing. We're in the key of 3 flats. This particular chord will fit right into that, and we'll have the same relative sounds really, but from F. And we can work with those same 2 scales I mentioned, F minor pentatonic and the F minor 6 pentatonic. And of course, you can continue playing on the C minor pentatonic on that one as well. But you'll hear the sound as it relates to the F minor. The progression goes back to C minor, and then off to that predominant chord, A flat 7. I'm playing a sharp 11 here. Let's simplify it a little bit. A flat 7. We'll play a mode of the E flat minor 6 pentatonic known as the dominant pentatonic. This can also be simply viewed as an arpeggio. A flat, C, E flat, G flat, B flat. Let me know in the comments which way of thinking you prefer or what works for you. But we can also color the sound in with something called Lydian dominant. If all of that seems like too much, take this real simple tip here. Take the C minor pentatonic, or even the blues, minor blues, and use these tones, C, E flat, F, G flat, B flat, C. And you'll have a note collection that works and is compatible with that sound, fits it nicely. Really just flatting the 5 of the C minor pentatonic. All right, let's tackle that G7. The 5 chord in minor tunes often include a flat 9 or a sharp 9 or even both. So why don't we take that dominant pentatonic that we talked about earlier, flat the 9, and see if we've got something we can work with here. So we take that dominant pentatonic sound, we just alter that 9, lower to half step, and you can do that in the opposite direction as well, raising the 9 a half step. And then we're back to C minor, C minor 6. If that G7 sounds really complicated to you, try to point at this B a little. Just 1 half step below the tonic C. And let that point back up to C when it resolves. There's a lot more that we can do. I'm gonna give you one more little tip to try out. We mentioned playing C minor on the F minor. You can also play G minor on the C minor. So if you have C minor or C minor 6, you can play a G minor pentatonic. That gives you a little more tension with the sound, and it's fun to move from one to the next to create variety, tension, and resolution. Of course, you can always take that blues scale and bend to some of those notes, or slide up to them. So I'd recommend balancing between inside and outside playing, maybe not going too far outside and maybe not going too inside for too long. It can get a little bland over time. Try to play singable lines and maybe even sing along with them. Create question and answer or call and response within your own phrases, having a little space in between, pausing, not focusing too much on the notes, coming up with some rhythmic ideas that may sound interesting. Play some primarily 8th note lines, switch to some 16th note lines, maybe play some triplets. Repeat and develop ideas. especially since there aren't a lot of changes in it, we can lean on that aspect of playing a little more. Include that A flat on the F minor when you're playing, so the rhythm section or just your own playing enjoyment, you can hear that the 4 chord is there. So some practice tips. See if you can start with the melody if you're having trouble coming up with ideas. Repeat parts of the melody, maybe create a little variation, try a few notes over here, lean back on the melody. Creating a limitation or practice session can help us to gain greater freedom in future solos. So see if you can play through some arpeggios all the way through. Work with only pentatonics a time through. Work with some 7-note scales. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear about your wins and your struggles down in the comments below so that I can include some of my take on it in future videos. Also, check out our Essential Minor Blues drills, link down in the description. And drop by fretprints.com and see what we're doing there. We have a lot of sound slice exercises, live streams, PDFs, embedded, and more. See you in the next one.